Welcome back everybody to another episode of our weekly Moto News Roundup, where this time round we'll look at big news for MV Agusta's Brutale Naked, spy shots of an updated Ducati DesertX, there's a new colourway for their Scrambler Nightshift, Triumph unveil a range of new mini electrics, BMW partner with DEUS Lodge for a brilliant custom that we've actually already ridden, Kawasaki's 500 adventure bike is getting nearer, Suzuki/prices, Zero move to Europe, ENFIELD record sales figures, and we'll round off with a humongous fine for a British biker riding out on the continent. But before we get started, a massive thanks to Breakfree for supporting our weekly news show and also putting up this brilliant giveaway. In case you haven't seen it already, not only can you win one of their brake lights for your helmet, which responds to both the accelerometer and gyroscope that are built in to detect deceleration and light up and alert traffic behind you, but also we've bundled in a whole bunch of other brilliant safety products. One is Viz's heated visor, so you've got perfect vision no matter what the weather. Alpinestars have been kind enough to bundle in one of their airbag vests, so the best possible protection should you unfortunately come off. And then to finish it off, we've got Cardo's top-of-the-line Pack Talk Pro with their crash detection feature built in. Now, there are discount codes down in the description below if you do want to pick up some of these products. But also, of course, you've got the competition form to get yourself entered and all the T's and C's, so thoroughly recommend getting your hat in the ring, and we'll announce the winner in a couple of episodes' time. But let's kick off with that new MV Agusta. They're on the brink of making a massive update to their Brutale Naked, and I think, judging from what they've said so far anyway, that it's gonna make for an absolute stonker of a bike. You see, a press release went out this week with a simple picture of a new headlight, so they're not giving a great deal away in terms of the looks, but in the text, lots of detail about what's to come. In fact, they actually say 2026 will mark 25 years of this bike, so perhaps it's a good time to give it a thorough refresh, and they do confirm that all the details will be out at EICMA in Milan in about a month's time, and so if you're not subscribed already, as usual, we'll be there to bring you all the best bikes in full detail, so do hit subscribe if you want to be part of the show. So what's in the works for the Brutale? Well, they do say the styling, of course, has been massively refreshed. They say it's an evolution, more modern, but still faithful to the Brutale's DNA. A new chassis from the ground up, so new frame, swing arm, new geometry, a new riding position, and updated brakes and suspension. And they say all of it balances confident and comfortable road riding with also the precision required when you do want to take it to the track. Tech has also been updated. There's a new interface in terms of the TFT dash. Reliability as well is meant to be a big focus, and there's a new 5-year standard warranty come in. But I think the big change that will make it a much better bike to ride is that it now gets, instead of the 800 triple of the previous gen, the same 950 triple, a bit more capacity, the one that you'll find in their Enduro Veloce adventure bike. Perhaps a slightly different state of tune in this sort of application. But you know, the 800 was such a high revving bike. Peak torque's like over 10,000 RPM, bags of power, bags of entertainment as well. But in terms of usability on the road, I always thought it felt a little bit too sporty. The 950, more torque, made lower in the rev range, whilst it has to be said, maintaining a pretty good peak power figure. And so I'm hoping for a much more rounded and versatile Brutale come November, but hopefully, still maintaining a bit of that slightly unhinged personality. Speaking of good usable engines though, the DesertX from Ducati could be the next in line to get their new V2 engine, with a tweaked bike spotted out testing this week with a few other updates alongside. For me, one of the best things about this new V2 engine is the fact that they've managed a lot of weight loss versus the Tesla Stretta V-twin, with the current Multistrada V2 for example shedding 18 kilograms versus the previous generation. So this new DesertX for example, I think in terms of total curb weight at the moment for the current version is about 220, so we could be looking at a new DesertX that's much closer to the 200 kilo mark, which would make it, I think, one of the lightest mid to large capacity adventure bikes in that sort of 800 to 1000cc segment of the market. Most likely the frame will be new as well because it's got to fit to that new engine. The swing arm looks to be updated too, and while the looks are definitely a bit of a continuation of the first gen bike with a bit of that Cagiva elephant vibe, well, you can see the whole thing looks a little bit slimmed down, certainly through the tail section and also in the bulk of the bodywork. One thing my spy shot photographer noted in his accompanying notes that sometimes come with the pictures is that he says there's a lack of support for that extra rear fuel pod, the auxiliary fuel expansion, let's say, of the first generation. And so maybe that's going to be dropped, which, you know, I always thought it was quite a cool idea, but perhaps they just never really sold that many of them as an accessory. This one expected to be announced before EICMA or on the day it starts, as we're already halfway through Ducati's run of 2026 announcements. On top of that, we got a small tweak elsewhere in their lineup when it comes to the Scrambler Nightshift, the more classic, almost cafe racer inspired looking version of the Scrambler with the spoked wheels and also previously a deep blue paint job. But for next year, it now comes in this emerald green, which I think looks really good and makes for a great looking bike indeed. Not much else has changed according to their press release notes, although they do say somewhere they've managed to shave off some weight. In fact, 4 kilograms, which isn't to be sniffed at, but weirdly, they don't say how they've done it, so I'm not quite sure, but much appreciated all the same. Even lighter, though, I dare say, is the refreshed lineup of electric trials bikes from Triumph with a specific focus on the youth market. Now, a few years back, they bought OSETS Bikes, a small manufacturer in the UK, and continued to sell the bikes, predominantly under the OSETS brand. This announcement this week, though, actually marks quite a significant shift because they've now moved them to be under the main Triumph brand under the model name TXP, albeit still labelled as powered by OSETS. So we've got 4 bikes in the lineup. In their words, it's the TXP12 for children as young as 3, followed by the TXP16 and the TXP20 for growing riders, culminating in the largest and most powerful, the TXP24, which is ideal for children over the age of 10, teenagers and adults up to 90 kilograms. I think one of the coolest features of these bikes is the fact that you've got a removable seat and mudguard, so you can either ride them in, I think what they call Explore mode or the Explore setup and ride it somewhat seated, or take it off and ride it fully standing up, and that gives you the most maneuverability or agility of your body, for a proper trials riding setup. Prices for these ones run from about 1,500 quid for that smallest one, perhaps just over, up to 3,695 for the biggest. And I guess you'll probably be able to test them out at the Triumph Adventure Centre in Wales if you want a bit of a rip around on one before you buy one, because they currently have a trials course using the existing OSETS, which are very similar indeed. And so I'd expect these new Triumph TXPs to come at some point in the next months or year. Next up, though, we've got another electric, this time an announcement of a custom project between BMW and DEUS Lodge, which is a great venue down on the south coast that we actually visited this week. You see, they've partnered on one of their CE02 electrics with new paint, new graphics, and a reupholstered saddle, which are all designed in partnership with DEUS Lodge. And I've got to say, there are very few electric bikes or electric two-wheelers that I want as much as this one. It was actually a launch last week for the standard version of the CE02, but they had the custom bike present to show it off. And Tim was there with me to help me shoot the review of the standard bike, but he was lucky enough to ride the custom one around all day. So look, keep your eyes peeled for the edit on that one. It should be up in the next few days. Now, it's no big secret at all that Kawasaki have been working on a middleweight adventure bike, because they teased it last year at EICMA. Although since then, we've heard very little straight from the horse's mouth. They've been very quiet indeed. So is it still happening then? Well, it appears so, because just this week, it's only a quick 18-second video on their YouTube channel, but they have followed up with another teaser, and so it looks like there's a good chance it'll be fully unveiled at this year's EICMA. The video's mainly wide shots, so you can't really see much of the bike, but the text says KLE, then life's a rally, ride it, and then finally coming soon. So it doesn't take a great deal of forensic investigation to figure out what this teaser's about. Definitely one at the top of my list of bikes to A, check out at EICMA, and B, try and get hold of next year for a review. How are things going over at Suzuki though? Well, perhaps still looking to shift a few bikes towards the back end of this riding season with some new prices that see up to $1,000 knocked off some of their key models. The GSX S1000 GT Plus Sports Tourer now comes in at $12,999, so that's $1,000 off. The S1000 Naked, that's $10,999, which could be partly motivated, I guess, by the fact that Honda have come in with the CB1000 Hornet and priced it very aggressively. The V-Strom 800 DE gets a grand off as well, so that takes it to just under 10 grand. And the taller GSX S1000 GX, so a sort of longer travel version of the S1000 GT, well, that one still gets 900 quid off. So yeah, perhaps a good time to flick through the website if any of these have been on your shopping list. And there are some other discounts on some of their other models, although not by quite as much. A big one this week, I think, Zero Motorcycles, previously headquartered in California, are actually moving to the Netherlands. They say they'll keep their current building in the US as an R&D center, but all their other functions are going to move to a new European HQ. Why? Well, apparently Europe's actually their biggest growth market, and so while they will, they say, continue to focus on the US, I guess it does make sense to locate yourself in your most lucrative market. Meanwhile, Royal Enfield appear to be going from strength to strength this year, with another sales record of theirs absolutely shattered. They've already been reporting pretty good numbers through the start of the year, but September saw them hit their highest ever monthly figure, with 123,328 bikes sold globally. That's more in a month than some other manufacturers might sell in a year, but also represents a massive 43% increase year over year, with 86,978 sold in September 2024. Now, most of it does come from their home market, so 113,000 bikes sold in India, another 11,000 exported. But all the same, compared to many other manufacturers who are struggling to match their year-over-year figures, well, Enfield do appear to be getting something very, very right. Perhaps a little less financially fortunate, though, would be this British biker who was out on a trip in Switzerland, renowned, to be fair, for its pretty strict traffic laws and tough punishments. But he got one heck of a fine, it's fair to say, for overtaking in a tunnel. This one was reported on Ride Apart, and look, it is a particularly long tunnel, the Gotthard Tunnel, although I very much doubt he got hard when he saw the fine, €13,000. Now, I say overtaking in a tunnel, which is strictly forbidden in Switzerland, but it turns out, with all the cameras and stuff in there, I guess, it was actually found to overtake 47 other vehicles within this 10-mile stretch of tunnel, I believe. And so that's how the fine got so high. They all stacked up. And they've given him a lifetime ban also from driving in Switzerland, which feels potentially, unnecessary, because I highly doubt he's rushing to go back anytime soon. As always, though, I'd love to know your thoughts on this week's story, so do let me know down in the comments below. And also put a playlist on the screen now with our videos from this week since our last news episode, in case you missed them, so you can catch up. We've got a bunch of touring tech and accessories that I use that you might want to know about, and also a review of the brilliant new Tracer 7 from Yamaha. Do hit subscribe for more of the latest motorcycle news and reviews right here on MOTOBOB, especially as we move into the launch season and towards EICMA and Motorcycle Live. A massive thanks for watching this one, and we'll catch you in the next video.